What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So we are finally going to see some progress made this week on both the $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill and the debt ceiling increase. What I want to tell you right now is there's a lot of stuff happening. There's a lot of big surprises that are now starting to come out. We're getting more data on what is supposedly holding back the economy and causing more people to be, stuck without a job. People to require additional stimulus, even after we've already received 3 stimulus checks totaling $3,200. So there's a lot of stuff happening right now. But here's what I want to break down. Right now, there's one big thing holding back the American people and the economy, according to multiple reports. According to multiple sources, things are actually going to get way worse if this one thing doesn't happen. Now, what is going to get worse? This is actually going to surprise you, okay? But here's what we're hearing. As of right now, we are hearing that daycare workers are starting to quit their jobs in record numbers because of the pay that they get, the benefits that they have, the requirements that they have to go through, and now many are looking into a better career, a more long-term career. Here's what we know. When people quit their job that work in a daycare center, what that means is parents will now have to go and find a different daycare center to take their children to, or else they cannot go to work. If parents cannot go to work, our economy will really see a slow in our economic recovery. This is also leading to many businesses having to close down because they do not have staff, or because the patrons or the customers that used to go to that business do not have money to actually buy anything. This is turning into another issue. This is causing multiple businesses to close. And it's simply because of this ripple effect in our community and the economy. What I can tell you is that lawmakers are looking into how can we better suit parents, families, children, because according to multiple reports, and there's a bunch of different reports saying this exact same thing, if you cater this bill, this $3.5 trillion human infrastructure bill, to parents and children and families, you're more likely to get that money to spread out. If we cater this bill to that group, we're more likely to see an economic rebuild that we've never seen before. But just picture this, okay? Let me give you an idea. When a restaurant closes, okay? Let's say a daycare worker quits their job. This is the ripple effect. They quit their job. The parent cannot go to work, okay? Let's say they worked in a restaurant. The restaurant then closes. Well, here's where the ripple gets even stronger. When the restaurant closes, the suppliers that they once used to bring in, let's say, products and food, well, they don't use that supplier anymore, so they lost a customer. Let's say that restaurant gets cleaned every single night by a night cleaning crew. Well, that night cleaning crew, that cleaning company lost another customer. That's not great news there. The landlord also lost a tenant, because the landlord doesn't have the income coming in from that building. Well, this creates an entirely different ripple, because now that landlord that used to go and buy products at this store, or let's say employed certain people to run his commercial real estate empire or whatever, right? Then he sees that ripple effect going off onto him as well. So that's what many lawmakers are talking about, is we need to make sure that ripple is very small. And one of the ways to do that is to provide more income and more security to the American people. This is one of the reasons why many experts, as of right now, strongly believe that the child tax credit payments will not be excluded. This is probably one of the most guaranteed items that will be included into this bill. But again, we will see as we get closer. And it's because of this that lawmakers are saying that this $3.5 trillion human infrastructure bill, it needs to address the main issue. But what is the main issue? What is this issue that we're talking about? The issue has to do with pay. Obviously, equal pay. We know that the progressive chairwoman, Pramila Jayapal, she even said today on Twitter that the $7.25 minimum wage has been the same since 2009. So the past 12 years, it's been $7.25, $7.25, $7.25, and so on. She says we need to see a wage increase. Well, according to the Washington Post just today, the median pay for a daycare worker is only $12.24 per hour. Much better than the $7.25 per hour, but still, it's too low. And this is the median pay for a daycare worker. And the report also indicates that more than 10,000 daycare center workers quit over the summer simply because of lack of pay, lack of benefits, and they're looking for something better. This is very, very troubling. If we see daycare centers shut down, if we see daycare providers quit, go do something else, that creates a big burden on parents. Now, here's one thing I want to address. This child care provision, right? Raising the wage for people that are working in the child care field, making it less expensive for certain individuals, lower income earners, making it less expensive on them to pay for child care. In addition, getting a $4,000 per child per year child care tax credit. These are all going to benefit this industry and the American people. But the bill still has to pass. Here's what we know. Today we are learning that there's a higher chance that the $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill, that this is just a dream as of right now. Chances are this bill is going to be closer to that $1.5 to $2.5 trillion. Now, I want to break this down because I've said this for the past few months. I'm going to say it again. If this bill is not $3.5 trillion, the chances of seeing any direct stimulus outside of the child tax credit payments is somewhat smaller. But there are additional discussions on this another stimulus check, and I'll address that in just a minute. But first, one report is indicating that this $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill will be closer to $1.5 trillion when it finally passes. Multiple other reports state that the price of $2 to $3 trillion is most likely the last outcome. Here's what we know. At the same time, multiple lawmakers have stated that the goal is to pass meaningful legislation, but without causing more inflation. So here's where things get very interesting. According to multiple reports, one train of thought is to pass around $2 to $3 trillion of additional stimulus or infrastructure or stimulus now. Doesn't mean a stimulus check. But Democrats want to see that there's no additional inflation happening. When they see this, then they say they can pass any remaining legislation that wasn't agreed upon that could actually fill the holes in the economy. So here's what we're hearing. If this happens, if things go down the way the Democrats are planning, then we could see an additional stimulus check. We could see additional stimulus to the American people. But here's how this would work. Okay? And again, experts saying that this has a higher chance of passing than a $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill at this time. But from what I've gathered today, there has been discussions over an additional stimulus check over the past couple of months. However, it would only come in the event that COVID cases are to rise dramatically, hospitalizations are to increase substantially, deaths obviously increase as well. If we just see COVID cases and we see mild hospitalizations, additional stimulus check will not be included. But if we see a large spike in COVID cases, but nothing having to do with hospitalizations, it's not going up as much, and the deaths are way down, stimulus checks are pretty much out of the question. All three things have to happen. Increase COVID cases, increase hospitalizations, and increase deaths as well. The rate has to go up. It cannot just be more people are getting COVID, more people are being hospitalized, more people are dying. Obviously, that's the case. If more people get COVID, more people go to the hospital, more people are probably going to die. It's just a numbers game. So it has to increase on a percentage basis, not overall numbers. But again, if we see this happen, if we see the American people start losing their jobs, and we see deflation, that's key. If we see deflation, then stimulus checks could be back again. But again, I just want to readdress that these would be very targeted, who they go to, who receives them. And the big thing is, this would not happen immediately. This would be something that's down the road. According to one report, we wouldn't actually see this until possibly February. Hey, February 2022. We're in September. It means we've got October, November, December, January, February. 5 months. 5 months to wait. Again, this isn't great news, but this is the update that we're seeing. Remember, the House and Senate, they'll be back on Capitol Hill tomorrow. They'll be both in session this week, which is great. They have a lot of work to do in a very short amount of time. Some say they're not sure if they'll even be able to get it done. According to multiple Democrats in the House, the September 27th deadline is most likely not going to happen. And if the bill doesn't happen by September 27th, according to progressives, they are going to vote to shut down the bipartisan bill as well. And according to Representative Yarmouth, he says, and I quote, "I would say we're probably going to slip past the September 27th date. Sometime in early October would be my best guess." But he also said, and I quote, "These are not frivolous matters. If we have a desperate deficiency in social infrastructure in this country, access to affordable childcare, the absence of early childcare education, the infrastructure for senior care, I think that's what we need to focus on, not the money." And this has been brought up multiple times by many representatives and a handful of senators. We should not be focusing on the price tag in the end. It should be about what legislation is needed to get the American people back on their feet, provide a boost to the economy, not just today, but in 5 and 10 years, and make sure we are competitive with the rest of the world. That should be the goal. So that's what we know right now. As always, as I know more, I promise I'll come back on, fill you in on all the latest news and updates. Again, I just want to thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. If you enjoyed today's video, do me a favor, go ahead, hit that like button. It really does help out the channel. Subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.